Okay, so let's just hop right into it. I am making this video, with my jimmy-rigged lighting and unwashed potato face, for a friend of mine who is going to be entering the world of LARPing, potentially, in 2 weeks. It's gonna be a formal event, and I honestly can't think of a better event to learn to LARP in. Even though there are going to be multiple universes, we're going to have LARPers and cosplayers. So there are going to be even more universes because everyone's going to be in character. That's at least the idea. And so I am making this video for her to kind of dispel, hopefully, some of the fears and concerns that she is very legitimately having. Because I understand that LARP is a very scary thing, or it can be, for somebody who's never done it before. And so I guess I could just give some examples of kind of what to expect, maybe some stories from last year, because this is the second annual Spectral Alignment Gala. That's the name of it. I'm very excited, so let's see where this goes. Also, my hair is blue. Look! Well, kind of blue. I need to retouch it already, but well, I've made some notes so that I can stay on track. So I know that you have role-played with just 1 or 2 people and you kind of expressed feeling more comfortable that way. With LARPing, it's like that, except you kind of hop around from group to group. You're never going to be, I mean, sometimes you are, but you're never going to be in a room full of people and trying to talk to them all at the same time. That's not how real life works, and that's not how LARPing works. Unless you're giving a speech, which most of us aren't brave enough to give speeches. You know, good for you if you are. But, you know, people tend to cluster, so it feels almost like speed dating. That's a really bad example, but you might walk into the room and somebody will say, "Good morning, you know, how did you sleep?" And then you just start conversation as your character. And then you might sit down with them, or you might walk away. It is really up to you, and it really depends on where the conversation goes. So you'll kind of hop around from group to group, and some groups might be larger, some groups might be smaller. You might be talking to one person for an entire event, or you might be talking to no one if you're mute. Or if, I don't know, there could be different factors. Or you could be talking to a lot of people. I tend to bounce around from group to group, but I also tend to follow, if there's one particular group that I'm kind of plot involved with, I'll tend to follow them around and see what they're doing. But the same thing goes for the gala. It's going to be, there are going to be quite a few people there, and I'll get to that in a second, but I've got a string on my pants. Hold on just a second. Okay, so there are going to be a lot of people there, but never will you just be swarmed. That, like I said, that doesn't happen in real life, typically, and at IRL parties, and it's not going to happen here, because everybody there is just as scared of everybody else as you are, and me. We're all so afraid. So the point of this gala is to bring a bunch of universes together and to unify them, I guess. To kind of introduce somebody from, you know, our LARP to somebody from a sci-fi LARP, or the sci-fi LARP to the steampunk LARP, or it's you're learning about other people's worlds through the eyes of your character. And I feel like it's a lot more interesting than just getting a bunch of people together out of character and talking. But there's not just that. There's dancing, there's photo shoots. So if you really like your costume, or if you really like your character, or if you really like somebody else's character, you know, you can go get your photo taken with them. It's just like any other party, really. There are, you know, people who, there's There's going to be food. There's going to be a lot of interesting banter going back and forth. I can go ahead and tell you that. There's not going to be any combat, but you know, that's okay. Some other time maybe. So really what this is going to be is just getting to know everybody and deciding whether or not you like the hobby. Really, I think the fundamental thing about LARP is that if it's not fun, you don't have to do it. So kind of the first event is always just figuring out whether or not it's fun. Because it's way different when you talk about it than when you're actually there. You can look at pictures, you can read descriptions, you can read the rule book, you can listen to people's stories, but it's nothing like actually being there. So let's talk about social anxiety for a second. What I just mentioned a second ago is that everybody there is terrified. You know, not that everybody's going to be huddled in a corner, like that's probably not going to happen. But somebody, when I first joined, said, it's okay, everyone here has social anxiety. And that really helped me, because then I realized that everybody around me was just as uncertain, even if it had been their, you know, their 100th event, or, you know, if they had been doing this for 15, 20 years, still sometimes they would get nervous. And that's okay. It is okay to be nervous, because everybody else is nervous. And really what you do is you pick someone that looks slightly less nervous than you, but is really just as nervous as you are, if not more, and you hide behind them. I do this a lot. Okay, so social anxiety is out of the way. Getting into character. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of tell a little story from when I first started doing this. I was, like I said, I was terrified, and I didn't know really how it was going to turn out. I didn't know how Nell was going to turn out, because I did play Nell back then. I didn't know, I kind of knew what her personality was going to be, but I didn't know exactly how that would pan out. And honestly, that's the best way that it can be. Just come up with kind of a bare bones guideline of what you think your character should be. Is she funny? Is she shy? Is she determined? Does she, you know, does she like long walks on the beach? I don't know. Any little detail you think should go in there that will help you stay in character, go for it. But the cool thing is that you don't have to come up with all of it at once, because characters naturally want to mimic real people. So the more you play this person, the more you're going to start to see subtleties. Okay, let's take Nell's shovel, for example. So my two different characters handle this shovel very differently. With Nell, when she's standing idly, she wraps her arms around it and she kind of rocks on it a little bit. She'll set it on her foot and she'll rock back and forth. If she's waiting, if she feels unsafe, that's kind of her security blanket. With Todd, who also uses Nell's shovel, it's not actually her shovel because she took it with her, but it's a shovel. Todd does not do that. I did not plan for that to happen, that he kind of leans on it. He'll put one elbow up on it and lean on it if he's got it. He'll drag it on the ground. He kind of disrespects the shovel in a way that Nell never would, because Nell cares very much about it, and I didn't plan either of those things to happen. They just did. And that's the cool thing about LARPing, is that your character will start to develop without you. They will do things without your direct authorization sometimes. Not to say that, oh, like, you're possessed, they're gonna take over your body. No. They're going to do some things kind of, you know, as though they have a mind of their own, though. I'm trying to think of another example here. Okay, let's talk about Todd, because I've played him more recently and he's more fresh in my mind. So, when I first started playing Todd, I had a very clear goal for what I wanted. Or so I thought. I wanted him to be small, I wanted him to be angry, I wanted him to just, just be the shonen protagonist, and to be very set and determined in what he wanted. But he didn't turn out that way. He ended up being a kind of awkward, sometimes violent but very loving and emotional individual. I did not think that that was going to be the case, and that all happened through just role-playing and scenarios that came up, because that's the thing, is your character does not exist in a bubble. Things will change them, outside influences will, which I definitely encourage, because I think that characters do mimic real people, and we're all changed by the world around us, and seeing that character growth and development even over just one event or one evening is really something amazing. What's our next point? So the actual act of getting into character, it really depends on person to person. So some people like to take a walk and kind of just remember the fundamentals of their character. Let's take Nell, for example. So I know in her current iteration, she's kind of fiery. She's still very sweet, but not as sweet as she used to be. She's kind of a snark fest. I know that she has been on a long journey, so she might be a little bit tired, or she might be a little more grown up this time around. And I just kind of keep that in mind, because I haven't played Nell in a long time. She is basically going to be a new character. So we're gonna kind of be in the same boat in that way. I haven't played Nell since she was very bouncy and very childish, and it's gonna be different. I don't know how it's gonna be different, but it's gonna be different. And I kind of don't want to know until I get there. I want to see what she does on her own. Okay, but Todd, since I've played Todd more recently, he'll be a little bit easier to get into character for. I like to think about the characters that inspired him, so Barry Goldberg from the series The Goldbergs, both Grunkle stands. Gosh, I can't even remember, but I try to think of any characters that have recently inspired me for Todd's personality. I try to think of his character traits. He is insecure in some areas. He is flamboyant. He is reckless. He's a bard. That's a character trait. Is he very much likes to be noticed. That's why. Where is it? Ugh. That's why I'm taking this with me. This has changed LARPing for me, because I liked to kind of hide at first if I could, but now I'm just like, yes, come to me, gather round, even though, like, it's not, I don't even play that well. And he carries it around like this, and he's like, yes, this is my child, this is my baby. Oops. So just kind of take a moment, or, you know, if you're gonna be at work earlier that day or something, just try to do some little subtle things as your character. I have drawn as my different characters before. I do dishes as Kessel sometimes because it makes it go by quicker. Just pick an activity and just see what your character would do. See how they would do it differently. You know, don't do it like disruptively, but I'm trying to think of a good example of something that I can do. Okay, I have an example. I hope I don't appear in any cringe compilations, but I got this recently. So imagine how your character would play with one of these. Because I know that I spin it back and forth sometimes. It's just a little desk toy. It sits on my desk. I've had it about a week now. I don't really pay attention to it, but I know that my characters would play with this very, very differently. Nell is very easily kind of mesmerized by mechanical parts. She kind of really shouldn't look at them for too long because she gets into kind of a trance-like state. So with Nell, she would probably just it's just That's exactly what would happen. With Todd, on the other hand, he would absolutely drive people crazy with this. Hey Sophie, check out my swag. Am I yeet with the kids yet? So yeah, there's a good example. Think about kind of how your character carries themselves, how they sit, how they stand. Do they tend to be more shy? Do they tend to be more outgoing? Todd takes up more space than Nell does, typically. I don't know if that will have changed for Nell because it's been a while, but the way that Nell sits is she's very small, tends to be. She keeps her hands, she keeps her hands in front of her, or she kind of leans on the table, maybe. She kind of sits like a cat would sit, you know how cats kind of just take up one spot typically, but she slouches. That's the other thing too, is that she slouches and she has very bad posture, and she leaves her weapons on the table and she just doesn't really think about it. But Todd, on the other hand, I'll see if I can kind of show this. Todd he likes to kind of relax. He likes to put one arm over the chair, if he can. He likes to spread his legs apart. He likes to lean on the table too, but it's always, hey. He slouches too, but he does this thing sometimes where he won't lift his elbows off the table if he's going to pick something up. So I wonder if I don't want to point my camera down because my room's a mess. Also, kind of taking people that you know as well can really help with character stuff. So Todd has a lot of mannerisms similar to my dad. When my dad is angry, he does this kind of sucky noise against his teeth, just to kind of let everybody in the room know, hey, I'm upset. This is an injustice. But Todd does that too. But my dad has this very kind of casual way about him, this cool, casual, like, nothing bothers me kind of deal, and I've really kind of used that for Todd, so I'm gonna give some examples here too. So, Nell. That's Nell. That's kind of her. It's really weird without the makeup, but it's kind of what and it's going to be even weirder with the mask because I'm gonna have this on over top of my face. So Todd is more and it's just little subtle things like that. And you can also come up with a voice for your character. This is gonna be weird, but here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do Nell's voice to the best of my ability, because it's been a while. But Nell kind of talks up here. She still sounds pretty young, and she doesn't know what stuff is. She likes food, and she likes, I can't think of anything to talk about. I'm sorry. I don't know. My face is coming off. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what this is, but it says it's Powerade. Sports drink with vitamin B3, B6, and B12. I thought there was going to be a lot more interesting of a slogan than that. But, you know, to each his own. Bill Cipher says hi. That's stupid. He's so stupid. So, yeah, that's kind of what Nell sounds like. There's like a ghost of a face on my forehead. So, Todd. The problem with Todd is that he and I are very similar. Voice-wise, mannerisms-wise, we tend to just do things very similarly. So, He can be a little bit harder to get into character for immediately. He does take a minute, but it's but there are some differences, and it is pretty apparent after about 30 minutes, the difference between Todd and myself. Where'd it go? I had it. Oh, there it is. Give it to me. There's a little flashing light on this camera here. I think it's about to die. Oops. There's a whole... I said I'm not allowed to cuss, so there's a whole box of trail mix. There's a whole box. Whole box of trail mix. I really want some of this trail mix. I hope she doesn't mind. I'm just gonna... It's behind the scenes Todd. I got this bow tie to wear to this thing. I mean, I've been to a few fancy parties, but nothing like this. I don't guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been to ones in Arcaden with a friend of mine. That was good. Those were good. Ah, jeez. Ah! Threw everything in the floor. So those are my characters. So the next thing on the list is staying in character, and the first thing that I'm going to say is not everything is going to go perfect every single time. Sometimes in a conversation you'll say something wrong, which there really is no wrong, because people make blunders all the time. That's just kind of how humans are, and that's okay. That's okay to make blunders. I do it a lot. When I played Karis, I tripped over my words sometimes, and it came off as very not intimidating, like I wanted it to be, but that's okay. That's, you know, it happens. When you're staying in character, try not to think about that. If you think too hard about being in character, you're going to trip yourself up. You're going to make yourself nervous. What really helps for me is to just kind of just forget. Forget that I am Rin, forget that I am me, and just be in the moment. Just take it one step at a time. It's not like a puzzle. It's not like it's not like speed math or whatever. It's not like you have to solve all these equations in 2 seconds or you lose. You lose LARP! You can't lose LARP. It's just like role-playing in small groups. If you mess up, that's okay. I am the master of getting out of character. I don't mean to. I love to be in character and I try my hardest, but there are always going to be those moments where you are supposed to be completely serious and you hear someone fart and you just lose it. Everybody else is in tears. Everybody else is, mourning the loss of so-and-so, and you hear a weird bird or you see a rabbit run through the woods and you lose it. You can't, or you look around and you realize, this is a game. I'm having so much fun right now. And then you're a giggle box for the whole rest of the thing. And if that happens, it's okay. Just say, I'm sorry. Or, don't even apologize. Just tell them, excuse me a moment, and step away. If you're concerned about being out of character, or needing to be out of character for any reason, say you need to ask a question, or you need to figure out where the bathroom is, or you need to, tell someone, oh my gosh, I love your costume. You can do that. Just take your fingers, do this on your head. Sometimes they do this, but I think the universal sign is this. It's, I am out of play. Where's the bathroom? Or how much does this cost? Or where's your game located? Or, you know, oh my gosh, I've seen pictures of you, it's amazing. That's okay. If you want to have full-on out-of-game conversations with people, I think they're going to have some areas for that. Otherwise, just go up against a wall. Nobody's going to know. Somebody walks by and is like, hey, what are y'all talking about? In character, just hop right back in. Just be like, oh yeah, we're just talking about the weather. The weather's so nice today. Oh, look at all this technology we've never seen before because it's the Wild West. And yeah, so that's how that goes. If you run into people who are trying to break you out of character, either on purpose or by accident, you don't have to deal with that. Just kind of smile and nod and walk away. Or, you know, do the, I feel like we should be in character right now. I'm kind of trying to role play here. It's okay to be polite. Sometimes people do want to talk about, I don't know, what do people watch? Game of Thrones? Or they want to talk about a video game they like, or they want to kind of get to know you as a person more. They can do that later. But, you know, if you don't want to be out of character, just kind of politely remind them, hey, we're supposed to be in character right now. And if they get mean about it, walk away. That's all you have to do. Just walk away. That's what I would do. Because if you don't want to be in character, then why are you going to this place? The last thing on my list is, again, feeling uncomfortable, which is a great segue, I guess. So, say you're there and you're starting to feel overwhelmed, or you're starting to feel shy, or somebody is just really giving you a bad vibe. Tell somebody. You know, walk up and be like, hey, or, you know, you could do it in character if you wanted. Just walk up and say, hey, you know, can I, you know, hey, how are you? Hi, my name is so-and-so, if you haven't met them before. And feel free to hang out with them. Or find a way to put people between you and someone else. 9 times out of 10, people do this unintentionally, but because we're all very socially awkward, sometimes it can lead to some unintentional, uncomfortable moments. But, you know, just treat it like you're at a con. Honestly, if somebody starts to make you feel uncomfortable, just treat it like a con. Just smile and nod and walk away. If somebody is legitimately making you feel uncomfortable, do not hesitate to tell someone. All LARPs handle harassment differently, but all of them are going to say, okay, we'll find you a safe place. You know, we'll figure something out. We're going to work with you on this. And this is just friendly advice. In all my time LARPing, I've not actually come into contact with anybody who's really creeped me out. I've come into contact with people who've pissed me off over an extended period of time for various reasons. But I've never come across someone who's made me feel genuinely uncomfortable. And I've been dragged across the floor by the collar of my shirt, out of the line of fire. I've been pushed into buildings with very little warning. I've been picked up and carried under one arm or over somebody's shoulder with little to no warning. People, like, which I've let people know that I'm totally okay with that, so it does happen to me quite a bit. But you can tell people what your limits are. If somebody's getting too close, you just politely tell them you're making me uncomfortable. Like I said, treat it like a con, because this is a con, but everybody's in character. I'm gonna go ahead and say that when everyone gets there, we're all gonna be standing around, and there's gonna be just a few short minutes where everyone's gonna be scared out of their mind. And it happens with everybody. It's gonna happen with me, it's probably gonna happen with you, and it's gonna happen with staff, it's gonna happen with the cosplayers and the LARPers there, and we're all going to stand around, and we're all going to look at each other and think, how can I do this? How can I possibly do this? I am freaking out, I'm panicking, I'm scared out of my mind. But then the music will start, and hopefully one person will be curious enough to talk to someone else. Some of us will know each other, either from last year or from LARPs that we've been to, games that we share, cons that we've been to that we've met each other. And then one conversation will build on top of the next. And eventually, it's just gonna kind of blossom. into something amazing. And I know that sounds like poetic BS, but that's really how it works. My camera died, so I was editing the video while I was waiting for my camera to charge. I really didn't have anything else to say, just kind of explaining how things are going to work. And this applies to LARPs in general. This gala is a special event in which a lot of other LARPs are coming in. If you have any questions, please ask, because I don't read minds. And also, I love to answer questions about this stuff. I live and breathe LARP, basically, right now. And yeah, that's all I really had to say. So thanks for listening. Friend and anybody else who has seen this, love ya. This is so forced. Bill loves you too.